You were 5 years old when you learned that love is conditional. Not through words, through silence. Through the way your mother's eyes softened when your sibling walked into the room. Through the way your father's patience ran infinite for everyone except you. You became the child who carried the weight of every unspoken tension in that house. The one whose name was synonymous with problem. The one who somehow always picked the wrong moment to exist too loudly. And here you are now, decades later, still apologizing for taking up space. This is not about bad luck. This is about psychological architecture. This is about how families distribute pain when they cannot process it themselves. Let me be clear, you were not chosen randomly. You were not the scapegoat because you were the worst child. You were chosen because you were the most emotionally aware, the most sensitive, the one who could carry what others refused to hold. The family needed a villain, and you were strong enough to survive being cast in that role. Let me take you back to the dinner table. Picture it, the one where everyone laughs at a joke you do not find funny. You try to shift the conversation. Suddenly, the air changes. Your mother's face hardens. Your sibling rolls their eyes. Your father sighs like you have committed a crime. You were not rude. You were not cruel. You were simply different. And in that moment, you learned the most dangerous lesson of your childhood. Your authentic self is a burden. So you began splitting, not consciously. Survival does not ask for permission. You split into two versions of yourself. The one you show them small, apologetic, invisible, and the one you hide the real you. The one with opinions and needs and rage. This is not weakness. This is adaptation. You became a chameleon because the alternative was annihilation. But here is what nobody tells you. The role of scapegoat is not just about blame. It is about function. Every family is a system, and every system needs balance. When there is addiction, when there is unresolved trauma, when there is a marriage held together by silence and resentment, the system becomes unstable. Enter you, the stabilizer, the emotional lightning rod. Your family did not sit down and decide to scapegoat you. It happened organically. Someone had to absorb the anger. Someone had to be the reason things felt wrong. Because if you are the problem, then the marriage is fine. The parenting is fine. The family is fine. You were not the problem. You were the solution to a problem they refused to name. Think about your sibling, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. You probably hated them for years. Maybe you still do. But here is the truth that will shatter something inside you. They were not free. They were just in a different cage. The golden child carries a burden too. They must be perfect. They must never falter. They must perform emotional labor for parents who cannot self-soothe. They become the trophy, the proof that the family is functional. But you were given a different job. You were given the truth. You were the one who felt the tension everyone pretended did not exist. You were the one who noticed when your mother drank too much. You were the one who saw your father's cruelty disguised as discipline. You were the emotional detective in a house built on denial. And they punished you for seeing clearly. Because when you are a child who feels too much, who questions too much, who refuses to play pretend, you become a threat. Not to safety, to the illusion. And families built on dysfunction will protect the illusion at any cost. Let me tell you what happened to your nervous system. Because this is where the damage runs deepest. When you are raised as a scapegoat, your brain learns that danger is not just external. Danger is relational. Danger is intimacy. Danger is being yourself. Your body began producing cortisol in environments that should have felt safe. The dinner table, the living room, your own bedroom. Your home became a battlefield, and your body became a soldier that never got to rest. This is why you flinch when someone raises their voice. This is why you overanalyze every social interaction. This is why you feel exhausted after spending time with people who claim to love you. Your nervous system was trained to scan for threat in the faces of family, and now it scans for threat everywhere. You developed what psychologists call hypervigilance. You learned to read micro-expressions. You learned to predict mood shifts before they happen. You learned to make yourself small before anyone asked you to shrink. This was not paranoia. This was survival, intelligence. But here is the cost. You never learned what safety feels like. You never learned that love can exist without conditions. You never learned that you were allowed to have needs without apologizing for them. And now, as an adult, you choose relationships that confirm what you learned as a child, that love is something you earn, not something you deserve. Let me show you how this plays out in your adult life. Because the scapegoat wound does not stay in childhood, it metastasizes. You attract partners who criticize you the way your family did, not because you are broken, because familiarity feels like home. Even when home was a war zone, you stay in jobs where you are undervalued, not because you lack ambition, because being overlooked feels normal. Being the problem feels like your identity. You have friendships where you are always the one apologizing, always the one over-explaining, always the one wondering if you are too much or not enough. This is not coincidence. This is repetition. Your psyche is trying to master the original wound by recreating it. But here is what your psyche does not understand. You cannot heal by replaying the trauma. You cannot earn the love you were denied as a child by finding a new audience to perform for. The only way out is through the truth. And the truth is this: it was never about you. You were not scapegoated because you were defective. You were scapegoated because you were perceptive. You were scapegoated because you felt things they could not afford to feel. You were scapegoated because someone had to hold the shame, and you were strong enough to carry it. But you are not required to carry it anymore. Let me tell you what happens when a scapegoat wakes up. When they stop performing the role, when they stop absorbing the family's poison, the family panics, because the system only works if you stay in your place. The moment you set a boundary, the moment you stop taking the blame, the moment you walk away, the entire structure wobbles. And they will do anything to pull you back in. They will guilt you. They will gaslight you. They will tell you that you are too sensitive, that you are remembering things wrong, that you are the one tearing the family apart. This is not truth. This is desperation. Because if you are not the problem, then they have to face the real issues: the addiction, the abuse, the generational trauma. The fact that they built a family on silence and shame instead of honesty and healing. And most families would rather lose you than face that mirror. Here is the part that will hurt. The part you have been avoiding for years. You have been waiting for an apology that will never come. You have been waiting for them to see you, to acknowledge the pain they caused, to admit that they were wrong, and they will not. Because to admit they were wrong about you is to admit they were wrong about everything. So you have a choice. You can keep waiting, keep hoping, keep shrinking yourself into a shape that might finally earn their love. Or you can grieve. You can grieve the parents you needed, but did not have. You can grieve the childhood you deserved, but did not get. You can grieve the family that could have been but never was. And then you can walk away, not with rage, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Because here is what freedom looks like for a scapegoat. It is not about revenge. It is not about making them hurt the way they hurt you. It is about releasing the belief that their love is the only love that matters. It is about building a new family, one where you are not the problem, one where you are not the villain, one where your existence is not conditional. Let me tell you what you will discover when you step out of that role. You will discover that you are not too much. You were just surrounded by people who could not hold your intensity. You will discover that you are not difficult. You were just asking for basic respect in a system designed to deny it. You will discover that your sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a superpower. It is the reason you can read a room. It is the reason you can connect deeply. It is the reason you can love fiercely. You were not broken by being the scapegoat. You were sharpened. You learned empathy in a house that had none. You learned resilience in a house that tried to break you. You learned how to survive without support, how to stand alone, how to question authority, how to trust yourself when everyone else tells you that you are wrong. These are not scars. These are skills. And now you get to use them, not to fix your family, not to prove your worth to people who will never see it, but to build a life where you are seen, where you are valued, where you are free. But here is the warning, the part nobody tells you. Walking away from the scapegoat role is not a one-time decision. It is a daily practice, because the script is in your bones. The apology reflex, the self-blame, the instinct to make yourself smaller so others can feel bigger. You will have to unlearn what took a lifetime to learn. You will have to catch yourself mid-apology for things you did not do. You will have to resist the urge to over-explain. You will have to sit with the discomfort of being misunderstood and not rushing to correct it. You will have to learn that not everyone deserves access to your inner world. This is where the real work begins. Not in cutting off your family, not in confronting them, but in rewiring the neural pathways that tell you that love requires suffering, that intimacy requires sacrifice, that being yourself is dangerous. You have to become the parent you never had, the one who sees you, the one who protects you, the one who believes you. Let me tell you about the guilt, because this is where most scapegoats get stuck. When you start setting boundaries, when you start distancing yourself, when you start choosing your peace over their comfort, the guilt will come. It will feel like betrayal. It will feel like you are the bad one after all. This is not guilt. This is conditioning. You were trained to prioritize their feelings over yours. You were trained to believe that your pain matters less. You were trained to think that walking away makes you the villain. But leaving a system that harms you is not cruelty. It is self-preservation. And here is what you need to understand. They will survive without you. They will find a new scapegoat. They will reorganize the system. Because the system was never about you. It was about avoiding their own pain. You are not responsible for their healing. You are only responsible for your own. So what now? What does life look like on the other side of this realization? It looks like choosing relationships where conflict does not equal catastrophe, where disagreement does not equal rejection, where your needs are not treated as inconveniences. It looks like sitting in a room full of people and not scanning for danger, not wondering who is angry, not calculating how to make yourself smaller. It looks like saying no without a 10-minute explanation. It looks like taking up space without apologizing. It looks like existing loudly and not flinching when someone looks your way. It looks like peace, not the absence of conflict, but the presence of self-trust. And here is what will surprise you. When you stop being the scapegoat, when you stop absorbing everyone else's pain, you will discover something shocking. You will discover who you actually are. Not the role, not the defense mechanism, not the version of yourself you built to survive, but the raw, unfiltered, authentic self that has been buried under years of blame and shame. And that self is not broken. That self is extraordinary. Let me end with this. You were not the family scapegoat because you were weak. You were the scapegoat because you were strong enough to carry what others could not face. You were not the problem. You were the truth teller in a house built on lies. And now you get to decide. Do you keep carrying their shame? Or do you set it down and walk toward the life you were always meant to live? The choice was never really theirs. It was always yours. You just did not know it yet. Now you do.